Welcome to Bay Sunday. I'm your host, Kenny Choi. We begin with our pitch. If you have a show idea, we would love to hear from you. Go to facebook.com/Bay Sunday and comment to the page. Today, I'll be sitting down with an author, the CEO of an LGBTQ streaming service, and a young artist on the rise. But first, please welcome Tiffany Woods and Janet Halfin. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
So there have been a lot of there's been a lot of spotlight on the LGBTQ issues recently, especially with the military recently announcing that all people, including transgender people, can serve in the military. And Tiffany, you had the opportunity, or Janet rather, you had the opportunity to serve in the military back in the 70s. What did that announcement mean for you?
It was a very important and very proud announcement for me because being trans, I've served in the military, and when I was in the military, I had to hide. You know, I had to stay off base if I wanted to be myself, basically. And I did. I had my own B&Q, I had my own little house, and when I got off duty, I would leave, go to my house, change my clothes, be myself, and then when it came time for reveille, I would just go back to the base and be standing there in line, ready to go.
Was it a lonely time for you, a fearful time?
It was more of a cautious time, because at that time, if I got caught, I could be court-martialed, sent to the brig. So I was very cautious. I wasn't so much at the point of fearful.
And Tiffany, you've worked with the LGBTQ community for quite some time.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest issues facing your community right now and some of the youth?
I say number one, especially in the East Bay where we live and work, is the homelessness and the housing issues. It's a crisis all over the Bay Area. It's a crisis for the trans and LGBT community here in San Francisco. And throw HIV in the mix if you're having or mental health or substance abuse and you are pretty much homeless with little resources. It's worse in the East Bay and in other areas of the Bay Area where there is very little LGBT resources and support. So that has been a priority of trying to address with little ability to address that issue. And then I would say that impacts that is unemployment and economic issues. Depending on what survey, and we'll never quite capture that data, which we're all trying to do, is anywhere from 60 to 80% homeless rate for trans community members, especially worse for trans women of color. So if we can get a handle on the homeless, housing, homelessness, economic issues, and then we're still seeing incarceration issues.
And what needs to happen for all those issues to be addressed?
I think a lot of structural issues need to be addressed. Structural racism, structural and institutionalized stigma on trans identities. A lot of inclusive policies and trainings need to happen. A lot of education still. I mean, we're still, okay, San Francisco.
Is it lack of funding too?
Lack of funding, lack of job training.
From what, the state government or the federal government?
I think from all entities that fund job programs. But I think there also has to be a will. You know, San Francisco's done an amazing job of doing trans hiring programs and trans awareness, trans hiring and LGBT hiring fairs. We're not seeing that in many other counties around the Bay. Santa Clara County has been building up some infrastructure. But there has to be a will, not just a political will, but a corporate will to say, oh, I want to hire transgender employees. It's good business sense. You know, while North Carolina and Mississippi and other states are passing anti-trans legislation, you know, California has always been the leader in trans protections and trans issues. We need to continue to step up that game to say, you know, hiring transgender people is good economic sense. It's good for business. Beyond just a bathroom issue, it's about, you know, improving our quality of lives.
Yeah, and I want to get your take on this, Tiffany, and both, and Jenna as well. With Bruce Jenner becoming Caitlyn Jenner, has that been a positive impact or a negative impact? Have you seen changes for the LGBT community and funding and issues like that?
Still may take this.
Well, let's hear from Janet first, since we haven't heard from you since the beginning of the show. Has it been positive or negative?
At first, I was very proud of Caitlyn. You know, I was very proud of the steps that you take, although, as I said at the beginning, it was kind of like a wait and see. And now that we've kind of like in the community seen how Caitlyn acts, I don't think Caitlyn is representing trans like they're supposed to. I mean, she hasn't been through the ups and downs of being trans.
Sure.
I mean, she has all the glitter and the glamour, but everything that glitters is not gold. And when you fall hard. And she has to realize that you're going to end up learning how to stand on your own 2 feet.
But there have been some positive.
There's been some positive things, and I want to echo a little bit what she said. But first of all, I think everybody deserves the dignity of their transition, public or private, and it's extremely hard in the public eye and the media and to be such celebrity status. Grateful for the attention and the awareness, the education, and those conversation starters, especially at the local level, like in Fremont, when you're buying a magazine cover and the cashier is like, "Oh, that's Bruce Jenner. No, that's Caitlyn Jenner. No, it's Bruce. No, it's Caitlyn." I've had those conversations, right? But I think the focus needs to be not so much on Caitlyn, but on the communities that are struggling across this country and globally with these economic issues, these housing issues, these issues of survival that the Caitlyn Jenners of the world may never, ever have to face. And I think that's where we're trying to shift that conversation. So take that little bit of attention and then bring it down to local level. How do we apply that to improve the quality of lives of transgender community members living those lives?
Because we're still faced with being, abused by the police, and we get talked about all the time. We get misgendered. I mean, and that's really, really hard and devastating at some time for some of the members of the community, because you're already trans. People already have a stigma about that. And then you run into somebody that wants to misgender you, and they'll usually do it in public or in an opening spot, and that just takes you completely there.
Well, we're glad that the conversation is beginning. Tiffany and Janet, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. For more information about Tri-City Health, log on to tri-cityhealth.org. That's tri-cityhealth.org. We'll be back with more Base Sunday after this break.